Welcome to the RPG Talk Show. My name is Daniel Ivey, and this is
John Welker, Vice President of RPG Research. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the research and development of role-playing games in all formats and genres for all players.
Yes, and we utilize this research to achieve recreational, leisure, educational, and therapeutic goals.
Now, today's main topic is asynchronous information. We'll define that, but it does really mean things that are out of order on the timeline.
Right.
Flashbacks, etc. And which actually, well, we're going to also be in our third section before I forget. We're going to be unboxing a dungeon crate, and this one's got me a little excited.
Okay.
But for now, just chatting.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about something that is related to the main topic. And that is tracking initiative and tracking time.
Yeah.
We'll start with tracking initiative because it is the easiest, and if not the first bit of time tracking you do. It's the smallest segments. So, what is initiative?
Well, generally initiative is used for primarily combat, but you could also use that, for example, with social encounters, where you're making sure that every player has an opportunity to act.
Okay. Well, that's
participate.
How you use it, but what it is a means to subtract. All right, not subtract. The means to track player turns.
Yes.
And so the player turns, like you said, is mostly used in combat.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's used in social, and some games refer to that as social combat.
Yeah. Although it can be used in exploration as well.
Yes. I use it during exploration because I want to know where everybody is when the trap
combat.
when the trap goes off.
Yeah.
Or when the ambush happens. We'll get in more in the difference between using maps and theater of the mind in a later show.
Yeah.
So, what are the different kinds of initiative tracking are there? You want to start with tools first?
Yeah. So honestly, a lot of times, and what I've tend to use is just pencil and paper, and there is, depending on the system, it could just be we start from the game master and work our way around the table.
Right. Usually that's done left to right, and RPG Research, we designated the first person on my left as 1, and the last person on my right as whatever number of players we have.
Player N.
Yeah. What else?
There's also each player, or each character, rolling for initiative. This is very common in Dungeons & Dragons. And then you record that, and then you ping-pong around the table until all characters have acted.
Including the NPCs and monsters, and sometimes the hazards.
Yes.
Have a turn when they go off.
There's also a form, not a huge fan of it, but it was from Beckney, where there's a game master's turn and then the player's turn, and the players have to decide what they're going to do, and then they facilitate their actions through a
speaker.
A caller.
Yeah, the caller.
Yeah. So they decide what everyone's going to do, and then the caller tells the game master what everyone's doing. But there's so many opportunities for miscommunication there.
Yeah, there is. Because it's being filtered through player 3 and caller who's player 1 or whatever, and they may interpret or rearrange what the other person said.
Yeah.
Now, there are different ones like Star Trek. They do players go first, and the players choose which character goes first. Then the enemy goes.
Yeah.
So it's one player, enemy, player, enemy, player, enemy, back and forth. till they're all done. If you have more characters than enemy, then you just do that player, enemy, player, enemy, player, 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 player.
Yeah.
But, or enemy, 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 depending on which side has the most people.
Yeah.
They also have a mechanic that if you spend a thing called momentum, which is used to give you extra bonuses on things, you can pass the momentum. That way we can do player, player, enemy.
Ah, okay.
Or player, 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 enemy. That's going to cost me a lot of momentum.
Yeah.
But I can pass the initiative that way.
I also know that in Doctor Who Adventures in Time and Space, everyone declares what their actions are going to be per turn, and based off of the type of action, that goes first. So I believe it goes talking, fleeing, running.
No, running is fleeing.
Yeah, talking, doing some type of fleeing, doing some type of action that isn't harmful, and then violence.
Right. If you're going to take a violent action, you go last.
Yeah. And the amount of times I've seen people, and the game allows for this, to change your action based off of, well, I don't want to attack anymore. I can see that they're already, someone's already found a way to de-escalate the situation.
Or you suddenly realize that your violent action is going to cause more problems than it's going to solve.
Right.
And then, or you want to change your mind and go from talking to shooting, then you gain, whenever you change your initiative, you get a penalty.
Yeah.
To your die rolls. Now, the One Ring role-playing game, it's all the good guys, then all the bad guys.
Yeah.
But it is broken up. All the good guys melee, bad guys melee, good guys ranged, bad guys ranged. And then within that setting, or that in those parameters, the players decide what turn they're going to go, and the dungeon master decides what turn the opposing force does. What other ones can I think of for deciding turn? Oh, one game I've played actually does it by oldest player goes first or youngest player goes first.
Okay. But I can see some scenarios where people may not want to reveal exactly how old they are.
Yeah, but in a game like No Thank You Evil, nobody's going to really worry about that.
Oh, I've seen some parents who's like, I'm not going to ask that mother what her age is.
Right.
Yeah.
If the mother is there. But you can also just assume the mother is going to be older than the kid.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if there's 3 women there, all I'm saying is, if there's 3 women there, I'm not asking their ages. I know better.
Right. Let me see if I can think of any other ways of determining the Avatar Legends, I believe, does their initiative in player's enemy.
Okay. I haven't really gotten a chance to really go into that.
Yeah, I can remember. And like you said, some games, like when you play Dungeons and Dragons and you roll the die, you roll a 20-sided dice, and you add your dexterity modifier.
Yeah.
The person with the highest score goes first.
Yeah.
And there are feats and character classes that modify it, like, if you are a rapid person, then you are proficient in initiative.
Yeah.
And there are things that will also give you advantage on initiative. Say you
are hidden.
Or if you have the alert feat.
Yeah.
And then you can roll initiative with extra bonuses, and really, you end up with a passive initiative you can kind of, because you know you're going to at least get one plus the other modifiers.
Although there was another one that I remember. It's from Top Secret New World Order,
Yes.
where everyone declares there is an initiative order, and everyone declares their actions, but the person that's going to go last, for example, declares their action first,
Right.
so that everyone else who has a higher initiative can react to what everyone else is doing, so they have the benefit of information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are. Oh, I was planning on doing this, but my buddy negated it all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a communication thing. It's also the way the time is set out.
Yeah.
You don't know what the other person does until they do it. And if the person in front of you does something that completely negates your plan, fog of war and the chaos of combat.
Yeah.
Now, Pathfinder, which is a offshoot of Dungeons and Dragons, it became its own thing.
Yes.
But they do it based on your perception.
Mm-hmm.
So your modifiers are your perception bonus. So the difference is how fast you react to how fast you notice the danger.
Yeah.
And there's others that have all kinds of differences. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about physical tools.
Yeah.
As you said, you do yours pen and paper.
Mm-hmm.
I have a fancy magnetic board from Paizo that I use for Dungeons & Dragons and for Pathfinder and for Starfinder and for other ones as well.
There's also character tents. If you put, you've got your
on top of the screen.
You put them across.
Yeah, but let me finish the...
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the magnets, I have everybody's name on there. I have everybody's stuff, and I just move the magnets on the board. So it's pen and paper, but I don't have to rewrite everything.
Yeah.
Now, the tents are also good. Who's got the highest initiative? They go on the left, all the way down with the table tents.
Mm-hmm.
There are devices where they're poles, and you could put their names up there.
Yeah. I think I've used those a couple of times, but I always found them more cumbersome.
They seem awkward to me. Sometimes switching them out is harder than it should be.
Yeah.
One of the things I like about table tents is I can move them around easily. On this side, we have pictures of the monsters and the player characters, or at least the player character symbols. Mm-hmm. And on this side, I have stats.
Yes.
And that is very helpful for me, not have to go flip, 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 or click on a monster, pull it up. Now, if I'm going to be using my computer, your computer can track your initiative.
Yeah.
Play cards. So we have the numbers 1 through 6 or 1 through 9 on pieces of paper or pre-manufactured cards. And when we say, okay, you're going to go first, so I give you card 1. You're going second, card 2. Monster's going third, so I'm putting that. And the fourth person, here you go. And then we have the initiatives. And all I do from there is I call out 1, 2, 3, 4. Next round. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's another method of tracking physically your initiative.
Yeah.
All of this is now 1 round is done by...
Depends on the game system.
Yeah. Is that, 1 round or 1 turn could be anything from 6 seconds, or wait a minute, I take that back. 1 second.
Which one is using 1 second?
GURPS.
Oh, jeez. Because I know that in Top Secret it's 3 seconds.
Yeah. But in GURPS it's 1 second because aim and fire happen on 2 different rounds.
Ah.
And if you have to load, aim, fire, that's 3 rounds. But it's still happening quickly.
Yeah, that's over 3 seconds. Yeah. So,
load.
Yeah.
That's 1 second.
Yeah. Lone aim. Yeah, that's still
Aim,
that
1
is still
second.
faster than 6 seconds.
But they're not doing it in bunch. They're going 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds. And it kind of more creates this, everything's happening now. But it also creates confusion among players trying to figure out what actions do I do. Because if I sit there and I go load, aim, aim, I'm getting bonuses now.
Yeah.
Aim, big bonuses.
Mm-hmm.
Fire. The longer I take aiming, the more bonuses I get.
Mm-hmm.
But it could also end with, I did load, aim, 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 and the bad guy went, already loaded, aim, fire. I don't get to a second aim.
Right.
It's a risk that you take in your timing.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of timing,
Yeah.
we already said that how long a round lasts depends on the game.
Yeah.
They can be full minutes. They can be a single second.
Mm-hmm.
And there's difference between combat turns and out of combat turns.
Yeah.
For example, if we're exploring, I may do 1 to 5 minute turns.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we track time in the game?
Yeah. This is something that I've been, I have been working with it for a bit because I want to, when I'm running my games, I want it to feel immersive. So one of those things is, when the players are traveling, for example, like, okay, I know it's going to take them from this time to this time. And then they ask me, well, what time is it? I have no idea.
Right.
So I've wanted to do that. So for me, that starts with understanding initiative. And, okay, in Dungeons & Dragons, I'll use Dungeons & Dragons as an example here. Each round is 6 seconds. If I have a clock, I can then increase that every 6 seconds. Every round is 6 seconds.
Right.
But then
you get seconds, minutes, hours,
days, and then we're into a calendar.
Yeah. And then you get into your calendars, you go day, week, month, and we can use all this on paper.
Yeah.
I've seen tracking sheets that literally had, you take your dry erase marker, or wet erase, doesn't matter, and you mark off seconds. And when you get to, 60, you have a minute.
Yeah.
And when you get to an hour, you start marking on the hour, and you go back up, and you just keep track of the time that way.
Yeah.
You were doing a thing with poker chips, but before you talk about you doing poker chips, I want to point out that you were doing the poker chips for my Saturday game.
Yeah, I can still go back to it, but I haven't seen a reason to use them yet. Again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are we still keeping track of days, though? I'm getting confused about whether or not you guys know how many days things have.
So, one of the things that had made me stop doing that is I kept on getting conflicting information between what I was tracking and what the paladin was tracking. So instead of giving, 2 sets of information, I'm just going to go with him.
Okay, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, because ultimately I was just defaulting like, well, what day is it? And then I can adjust the calendar, because I have a calendar for your game as well. I need to get rid of it. And that is actually connected to this obsession that I have with...
calendar is important because then we can incorporate things called holidays.
Yes! Yes! That's one of the things that I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I'm the only character that cares about holidays.
I think that they need to be brought up.
Yeah.
Isn't it Greyhawk? They have a holiday, a 1 week holiday at the end of each month, or is that Forgotten Realms?
It is. Forgotten Realms has. I know at least. I know with Forgotten Realms there is a 1 day holiday at the end of every season. Greyhawk, I'm not certain of.
Yeah, I think we go through You have the month, then you have a week for holiday, and then you have another month.
I think that I'm not too versed in the Greyhawk calendar.
Yeah.
But one of the things I've been wanting to do.
But that's the calendar you've been using.
Yeah, that's the calendar I've been using. Yes, I have been using a Forgotten Realms calendar.
Now, before we go any further, the point I wanted to make was that you're helping with that.
I am trying to.
Yeah. But you can also use, as a dungeon master, you can use other players to help with keeping track, keeping initiative. My son has another player keep initiative for him.
Yeah.
And it works out pretty well. Just it's extra tools. Take a little leeway. It's a great thing to do with your rules lawyer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just because you're the game master doesn't mean that you can't offload some of that work to people that you trust. And it does help them get engaged. Because I've seen rules lawyers where, instead of being argumentative, well, they're the expert now. It's like, okay, we need a ruling. What does it say?
Yeah.
And, we delegate to that, and okay, the GM still has final say, but you're giving them something to do.
Instead of arguing.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a great method of doing things, I think, delegation.
But basically what we're trying to get at is the game master doesn't have to do everything.
Right, definitely.
Yeah.
What other ways do we keep track of time? Like you said, you can forward a manual clock that you can just click the ticker, and when it goes enough time with each second, it will dial over. There's clocks out there that will measure everything.
Yeah.
Week, month, year, etc. Solar eclipses. And
so can I tell you, speaking of solar eclipses, I want to tell you about an idea that I've had for the longest time. This is connected to the calendar that I've made and all the timekeeping that I've done. I do know how to do some programming, but I haven't had the time to really dedicate to this.
You want to create a clock, game clock map app?
Yes. Yes. The idea is, one, it's an initiative tracker.
Yes.
But you put certain details in based off your campaign roll. For example, what day is it right now? What day does it? What day is it? You can build a calendar that it's going to work off. And what it does is, as you, for example, track initiative, okay, you still go through initiative, okay, but time progresses, and it tells you exactly what time is it. But not only that, but it gives you a nice visual of the sun's about to set, and it shows you the sun setting about the time sun sets.
Yeah.
So instead of, and it's something where, especially if you've got a digital map, you're gonna have a little thing of, well, there's a phase of the moon.
So you're talking about VTT?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
virtual tabletop tools.
Yeah. There's a when the moon is up, you know what phase up the moon is. When the sun sets, you know what time is it. And not only that, but because we've now tracking a calendar, the scene changes based off of what season it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a nice tool. The things that we track, depending on what style of play you're doing, but like an exploration one.
Yeah.
The one that we're doing, which has a lot of exploration, especially on the trip from Cessern to the Island of Dread.
Yeah.
We tracked not only what day it was, what time it is, what the moon phases are, and then the weather.
Yeah.
I have not found the perfect weather generator. The perfect weather generator would work off seasonal patterns.
Yeah.
And not just, oh my God.
Weather is so complex. Weather is so complex.
And here's part of the just in the Greyhawk setting, how they originally did their weather charts is it would change for season.
Yeah.
And it would change for latitude.
Yeah.
If you're going further south from the pole, then you're adding temperature.
Yeah.
The heat goes up. You go further away from the Equator, the heat goes down.
Yeah. But I'm also thinking because I was born in a tropical, island. Do they account for example, like hurricane season or monsoon season?
I haven't seen that,
Yeah.
but I have, it will say storm
Mm-hmm.
in the weather,
Yeah.
and you have to decide whether that's a hurricane
See, that's the thing.
or a blizzard.
I don't like that. Hear me out. Okay, I can understand. Okay, it's a storm, right? But when it's a hurricane, one, it isn't just like, oh, randomly a hurricane comes. It's one way more significant than a standard storm, and it is so significant that it actually clears out um other storm systems ahead of it.
Right.
So kind of like the tide receding, like, oh, if you don't realize that it's a hurricane's coming, oh wow, it's been a bunch of really really nice days recently, and then it all comes crashing down.
Yeah, it's also like when you see the shoreline
Yeah,
retreat.
yeah. If you don't know what that means, it's like, oh wow, that's interesting. Let me go see how far I can go down, and I'll pick up some shells, and then you get hit with a tsunami.
Right.
Yeah, same thing. That's why I say I don't want it to be a standard storm.
Well, that brings us to weather tracking.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about time, but weather tracking, you can either roll for random dice, or
Yeah.
we can create a system that takes into account where you're located on the planet
Mm-hmm.
and what the prevailing weather patterns are.
Right.
There are programs that duplicate that,
Mm-hmm.
usually for the National Weather Service, but I have seen people who have created maps of Greyhawk
Mm-hmm.
where you can zoom in from the galaxy level,
Yeah.
then zoom in on the planet, and you can zoom in deeper until you get to somebody's house.
Mm-hmm.
You can get right down there to character closeness on your map.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those I have heard, I've never seen, but I wouldn't like to see one where you set up, you know where you are
Mm-hmm.
on the map, and you can keep track as you travel,
Mm-hmm.
and the weather is built in. I
Yeah.
say we're going to start on the 5th day of Kython,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a summer time.
Yeah.
So it gives me a random weather appropriate to that time the
Mhm.
first time.
Yeah.
And then the rest is just builds on the systems.
Yeah.
Now,
Now,
in some things,
I have thought about those before,
Mhm.
but there is one major hiccup that I've seen with like procedurally generated weather. Okay.
What's that?
I don't mind procedurally generated weather, but sometimes, based off of the plot, you want the weather to be a certain way at a certain time.
That's what I was going to say next.
Yeah.
Because in our campaign, there are certain weather events that occur. You have to have that storm before you get to the Islet of Dread.
Yeah.
We know actually what specific day that storm's hitting.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to set this up without, I mean, you don't randomly generate the first day of weather until you've set in event weathers.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that I'm going to have a hurricane on this day.
Yeah.
And then, and I tag that in on this day.
Mm-hmm.
I need a hurricane.
Yeah.
And I need it at this time.
Yeah.
That it makes contact.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I said contact is if you're at sea, it's not going to be landfall.
Right.
So I do that, and the program would have to take any weathers that I need to have on particular days, put those in. And then it generates keeping that in mind and starts working towards that event.
Yeah. And I feel like you should be able to, say, not just have it, I have because very rarely is it I know exactly how this railroad campaign is going to work years in advance. You should be able to go in and say, okay, we're currently at this day. Based off of the plot and everything, I do need a hurricane to land in a couple of days.
Right. When you're doing a sandbox game,
Yeah.
no railroad at all,
Yeah.
just everybody can go and do anything they want,
Mm-hmm.
then random weather becomes the trigger for reactions as opposed to hitting a plot point.
Yeah.
And your computer program that's tracking the weather would also have to take in account the terrain. Are you at sea or are you in the mountains?
Yeah.
So we got terrain, time of year, climate, basically, yeah. Well, climate would also be, your latitude, and stuff like that. But the weather can be severely different in just 30 miles away.
Yeah.
I have seen where I have literally stood on dry ground and watched rain where I could have walked up to it, put my arm through. Okay, I'm half in rain and half out.
Oh, I've had it where I stood on this is in Jamaica, stood on a veranda and looked out onto the yard, and one side drenched, the other side not a drop.
Yeah.
Literally split it in half.
Yeah, I call that a rain wall.
Mm-hmm.
When you could see where the rain stops.
Yeah. I've seen that a couple of times in Florida as well.
So, all these things that have to be taken into account on doing the weather. I mean, there are people who are spreadsheet gods.
Yeah. I've seen some, especially for like old Dungeons and Dragons, where I've seen charts for weather and whatnot, where you could roll all of those, and I've tried using them, and I find them quite a bit cumbersome, because I feel like a lot of times, like, oh, it's a new day, give me 15 minutes while I generate the weather.
Well, what I did was I would generate a month at a time, which was better than. But it wasn't naturally. It was not following natural rules.
Yeah.
Willing suspension of disbelief. Who cared?
Yeah.
And the other thing you want to calculate in there is freak weather.
Yes.
And maybe magical weather.
Because we're living in a fantasy, especially in Dungeons and Dragons, you're working in a fantasy world.
Yeah. Freak weather, it's raining fish. Or fantasy weather.
Actually, that may not be required to be in a fantasy world.
No, that has
happened.
Yeah. They're called the Fortean times, where bizarre events happen. Now, there's logical explanations for it.
Yeah. It's raining spiders.
Storm cells. Raining spiders is just a seasonal thing.
I think in Australia.
Well, in Australia and other places where there are large concentrations of spiders who travel by web string.
Yes.
Because, like, if you've seen Charlotte's Web or read Charlotte's Web, all the baby spiders float out on their web strings.
Yeah.
And that's how they get to new territory. And that could be a day of raining spiders if you're in the wrong spot.
Or you could also have, like, what type of storm is it? Well, it's a locust storm.
Yeah. Those are real world things.
Yes.
But you can also have non-real world things where you have a elemental storm
Mm-hmm.
where there's actual elementals in the storm.
Yeah.
You can have storms where there's weird effects, like, oh, it's actual acid rain.
Yeah.
Or, again, that's a real world thing, but what if it was healing rain?
Mm-hmm. I thought I had, and this is going in with a concept that I've wanted to work with for a bit. But what if not just weather, but you treat certain events like as if it's weather?
Mm-hmm.
For example, oh yeah, randomly there's a wild hunt going on.
That's a random encounter, and it's not a weather event.
Right, but I feel like I feel like a wild hunt shouldn't be just a random encounter. I feel like that's a random event.
Right.
Yeah, because a wild hunt isn't just like, oh, it's one of these two. No, it's an event.
So in your sandbox game,
Mm-hmm.
you want to allow for pre-generated events
Yeah.
based on location and time of the year,
Yeah.
because the wild hunt isn't going to happen in August. It's going to happen in the fall.
I don't know. Why not? Why can't the wild hunt have a beach episode?
Because it's not a hunt. You have to do it during hunting season.
Okay.
When it's the best time to call the herds.
Yeah.
The wild hunt is a seasonal event,
Mm-hmm.
not a random event. So you can program in seasonal events
Mm-hmm.
of things that happen and where they happen, and you can keep track of that. But just as a weather generator, I don't know if there is a program that allows you to do that. Now, I know people
Mm-hmm.
who have generated almost perfect 3D models with terrain
Yeah.
of various fantasy worlds.
Yeah.
And you would need that detail of the planet
Yeah.
first and then add in weather.
At that point, you're actually. I mean, even before this, we're effectively building a fantasy world simulation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not to replace the DM, it's to aid the DM.
Yeah.
So when you ask what day it is, what time it is,
Mm-hmm.
and how's the weather outside, you don't go, I don't know.
Let me
You
roll
look at
for
your
it.
calendar and you say, oh,
You check your simulation.
yeah, you can check the simulation or you can roll for it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, when it comes to a campaign, rolling the weather a month in advance is a good idea.
Yeah. Now, one of the issues I've had with that as well, and this is one of the things that I've been trying to, you know, figure out is, okay, let's say that, you know, okay, today it's going to rain all day. Okay, not a massive storm. Okay, not a windstorm or anything, but it's raining all day. How does that affect combat?
Well, there are rules for visibility.
Yeah.
If it's a constant rain, I do believe you get a -2 to hit at range combat.
Okay.
It doesn't really affect the melee combat, but any acrobatics, you're going to get penalties to not fall on your butt.
And I figure because everything is kind of soaked, if you're out in the rain, fire damage, everything has resistance to fire damage.
Yes, that is one of the elements in the Dungeons & Dragons, is that everything gets resistance to fire damage. Also,
I'd probably also argue everything has vulnerability to electricity.
that would be a fair argument.
Yeah.
I would also say that depending on where you're fighting, your terrain could become difficult terrain all of a sudden.
Yeah.
You're no longer fighting on solid ground. You're fighting in the mud.
Yeah.
And that makes for a good scene sometimes.
It does.
Yeah, you have difficult terrain and just exhaustion levels go up. There should be and I don't know if there's a rule because nobody in my campaigns have ever fought long enough for this. But if you do 1 or 3 minutes of combat,
yeah,
then you should be rolling for exhaustion.
Yeah.
I rarely get. I got 9 rounds.
You got 9 rounds. It should have been like 10. Round 10. Everyone made me get Constitution saving throw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a legitimate thing to do because you've been fighting, and in real life, boxing matches are 3 rounds for a reason.
Yeah.
Or 3 minutes for a reason.
Yeah, it is. Boxing is quite exhausting.
Yeah. And so fighting a life or death with armor, a minute can be a roll, or, I would never put the first roll to be at 3 minutes because never, ever have I had a combat even make a minute.
Not only that, but if we're dealing with, we're using Dungeons and Dragons here, for example. And, my frail wizard, who, actually, she recently got a feat that allowed her training in Constitution saving throws. But before that, her Constitution saving throw was actually fairly mediocre.
Yeah.
She doesn't have the endurance to go more than a minute of combat.
Yeah.
She could easily be taking exhaustion if it goes into a second to minute of combat.
There was one game, and I don't know what it was.
I think the combat that we're currently in right now could easily go into about a minute.
Oh, yeah, it's swarm after swarm. But where the game actually you Star Trek, you get stress points.
Yeah.
And you get too many stress points, you go unconscious. But those are actually more related to hit points than just stress.
Yeah.
But I think there's a game where it actually tracks your fatigue round to round. Certain actions add a point of fatigue.
Yeah.
But this is not a system where 6 points kills you.
Right.
You just start getting penalties after this many.
And I do feel like, even if the exhaustion isn't going to go away until you take a long rest, checking for exhaustion every minute of combat wouldn't be that bad in Dungeons & Dragons.
No. You're not going to kill your characters if they have to have a solid 1 minute. Yeah. Now, you also do Constitution saving throws when they're running long distance.
Yeah.
Or swimming.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Swimming is so taxing.
Yeah, that's why swimmers get a certain build.
Oh, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah,
I'm familiar with it. So, our main topic today is asynchronous information?
Yes.
Yes. Which you said is information out of time, but I'm also seeing that as who has the information? Where not everyone has the same information at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily out of order. Asynchronous means out of order in time.
Yeah.
When you, if you have a bunch of different people with different pieces of information, that's an everyday thing.
Yeah, but I want to talk about how that can be used to enhance the game,
So when we come back,
yeah,
we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But meanwhile,
after these messages, we'll be right back.